Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
I'm going to talk to you today, and first I've got a couple of questions. Have you ever had an SEO campaign that you've had to pull early because the client hasn't given you the right information, or received very lukewarm feedback on what you thought was a very successful campaign? If so, you're suffering from built-in failure. Built-in failure occurs where your client's objectives aren't matched through the KPIs that you're measuring to. And in cases like that, you end up not delivering what they want you to. So I'm going to talk and give you some key insights you can use so you and your client are thinking along the same lines and you can deliver what they want and understand their priorities. So typically when we win a client, we're starting over here. We win a client, you run a campaign, get the briefing, the planning, go through, get some results for them, and then you make money by obviously billing them and keep them as a client. Whereas when you're suffering from an incomplete picture, the results you don't deliver what the client wants, and you end up losing the client and disputing invoices. So you can get an incomplete picture for a whole variety of reasons. No one sets out to do it. It could be the client hasn't given you the right information. They might have run out of stock. They might not have enough stock for the campaign. It could be that the products aren't set up correctly, or it could just be that they've given you an old cost of goods so the margins aren't correct. On your side, if you're measuring and you're spending a lot of time measuring all the engagement on the site, what channels are coming through, and eventually where the sales are made, you might not be understanding that the client's actually experiencing a high refund rate on the orders that get placed, or the fact that as well as that, it could also be a set of other reasons for that happening. And in that case, sorry, I shall stop for a second. I'll start again. So obviously it might be that the client is then getting a high refund rate, or it might be the people you bring on from the campaign, there might be a high, you might lose them again, so those people never buy again. So all the money that goes into the campaign doesn't deliver the long-term value and profits that they want. The third reason why you often get campaign failure due to an incomplete picture is just the fact that there's a lot of data going on. So you've got campaigns being run in one place, a lot of campaign reports and statistics being produced. Then on the e-commerce platform, you're then able to see the products that are sold, what's happening with the stock, what the cost of the good was, how that's moving over time. And then thirdly, the accountants work in a third place, and the accountants then working on a monthly basis, giving monthly profit figures, or they might be doing some kind of annual report. So you've got a situation where there's three sets of data going on, measuring different types of information over different periods. And when this is happening, it's really hard to get to this complete picture. The complete picture I want to get you to is where actually all this information is going in one unified data source. When you've got one unified data source, you can tie everything together. You can see what campaigns are bringing in the customers. You can see if those customers buy again. You work out where the which products are most successful, where the refund rates are coming from, how that stock's moving over time. It's working with the client wants to for their stock objectives, and also then how that's translating into daily how much money's made, and then how the cash flow is altering as these refunds are coming on. Well, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll talk a little bit about myself and the background to why I'm doing this work as well, where I've come from. Then I'm going to talk about the SMEs that I've been working with. So I've been working with a lot of SMEs, and I'm going to give you some examples of how we look at acquisition, how we look at average order values, and how we look at retention. And I hope through this will give you a different view to the pure SEO world that you see. And then I'll just tie you up with a couple of points before I finish. This is my background. I'm new to e-commerce. I only started working in e-commerce within a couple of years. What I'm bringing is a huge amount of data analysis experience. I started off as a little girl. I was always the winner of all the board games in the family, reputed to be very lucky. In fact, I was actually just good, probably at numbers, strategy, problem solving. And after uni, I then spent a lot of time doing that at different places. Marketing, I worked there in the year 2000. So our social media platform was Friends Reunited, for anyone who knows that. I'm not going to talk about that. Amazon have been selling in the UK for 2 years, and they just introduced selling CDs and DVDs as well as books. So we're not going to talk about me knowing anything about marketing, but what I really did was spend a lot of time working for large organisations, mainly lenders that lent money, understanding how the data is working, trying to build segmentations, understand different relationships between it, build reports, build monitoring things, and really try and say, this is somewhere I want to get to. I know there's some data over here. How do I combine it together? And that for me was my real interest. I'm also a qualified bookkeeper, which when I went bookkeeping, I then worked with a lot of SMEs and really understood for the small and medium-sized enterprises the problems they face. They hadn't got big teams of data analysts. They hadn't got huge amounts of knowledge even. You know, they were doing the thing they loved. But actually, how did they understand? Where is their money coming from? How is it going to be? Will I get enough money to pay my bills? You know, how do I understand that relationship? Why don't I feel better off for the campaigns I'm running? So I kind of combined all that experience together when during lockdown I started working for an e-commerce retailer, looked at the information they got coming into them, looked at the challenges they faced, thought actually there's not very much there that answers this question. I can see lots of different data and information in different places, but I just can't tie it together to get this unified picture. And that kind of gave me an idea that I'd look at the market, see what was there, thought actually I think I can do something myself. So I then set up the project. This is kind of there's lots and lots in data analysis world. This is a very, very famous quote, but I think it's true for everybody and what we're doing. When we don't know what's happening in the business, it's really hard to make a decision we're confident in. We don't know if we made the right decision. And worst of all, we don't make a decision at all. So we know something's going on, but we can't diagnose it. And when we can't diagnose it, we're then really actually thinking it's hard to make that decision. So I think that especially in the e-commerce world, having only joined it since lockdown, the e-commerce landscape's dramatically changed. And to survive in e-commerce, you need to be agile. You need to be able to respond quickly to the challenges. You need to know what the challenges are. When something isn't working, you need to be able to pull it out and you need to be able to address it. So I think more than important to do that, you're going to be able to have to be able to measure it. I'm going to talk a bit about the data solution, where I've got to, and then about how you can then apply this for what you're doing. So we very much wanted to create a solution which worked for the SME market. So we knew they hadn't got the time or the resources or the skills to build a whole data project themselves. We started with WooCommerce, which was a platform we knew well. And we knew the data that sits in WooCommerce is pretty horrible to work with. You've got product information, you've got master products, you've got the product details of the sizes beneath you, you've got some information coming from the marketing campaign, you've then got the sales that are made on a daily basis, you've got customers level information which repeatedly happens, and then you've also got some information around, you know, what money's made, what gets returned back to you. So we wanted to simplify that, and our first step was bringing into a data warehouse. This is a developer by me. I don't do the data warehouse so much. But basically, we take all that data and we clean it, we tidy it, we check it every day, we check we've got the information in, we check with the master reports to always know we work off a solid foundation. And because the data is horrible to work with, within this data warehouse, we're also doing a load of extra calculations. So we can say for everybody that buys today, we look, has that person bought before, how many times have they bought, what's their lifetime purchase history, how long is it since they last bought. We also identify if a new product's come on board, we say, yep, there's a new product. Let's create a field called a new product, and then let's then count how many days it takes till someone buys for this new product. So by setting all the information, controlling it, when we go onto the data dashboard, we use a product called Good Data. You might well have come across things like Power BI, or you might use Looker, or what was Google Studio before, I think. But it's about getting a system that works for you. We knew this was a very scalable solution. So we take all this complicated data out of the data warehouse, we simplify tables, put them into the front end, and we've got a dashboard that sits there in a template. So every time we add a new client in, we then get straight through, bring all their information in, and we get a start point, which then makes it very easy to work with the client to say, actually, this is where we're starting with. What do you want to see? How can we customize it for your needs? So we kind of start with the thing that works for everybody and then bring it down. So this is a much quicker way of developing, rather than trying for everybody to say, what do you want to see? How can I create that information? Once we're happy we've got the dashboard working for WooCommerce, we then went to Shopify. Thought, well, this is kind of similar data. Not at all. 4 months to get approval from Shopify. Although Shopify works the same way, it works in different ways. So we had to go through a long process with Shopify. And we also found that what WooCommerce calls a product type is not what Shopify calls a product type. Completely different information stored in different ways. So again, for the more things you want to bring in and use for your clients, the more complexity you're going to bring in. I could bring in Google Analytics as well, but then I'd have to manage Google Analytics and then understand all those fields. So to start with, I've really just gone for WooCommerce and Shopify. And while we're in our kind of private testing mode, you can't yet go and buy this while we're actually getting to the real point of saying exactly what our product is. assuming you've now got your product working happily and going to move on to acquisition. Acquisition, bringing people in. So this example uses they sold outdoor bike accessories, and they're selling 3 different types of helmets, brought in a new brand of value helmets, 3 different colours, bought the same amount of helmets, and they cost the same money to buy, they price them the same amount, put the same marketing budget on them. We're just going to now look at what happened to the sales over time, because although the 3 helmets look the same, the actual performance in terms of which one was a bestseller, which one was doing well, and which is the basic was quite interesting to track. So it's a little bit complicated, but if we start over here, we're looking at the sales. This is after 6 months. The grey helmet you can see is the bestseller. That was selling more than a third of the sales were going the grey helmet. Green helmet pretty much on track, we'd expect a third of sales. The navy helmet was performing a bit worse, and actually only 29% of sales were to the navy helmet. So already a slight difference was appearing. In terms of the refund rates, the green helmet was most popular. Although it wasn't the most popular bestseller, people that bought green absolutely loved the green, and they got returned at a much lower rate. So when you add in the sales and the refunds together, when you get to the stock, actually the grey and the green were performing pretty similarly in terms of actually doing really well. But the navy helmet, its refund rate 7%, not too bad compared to the grey one, but the stock was actually increasing. And just because of the small effect of the fact it's the least popular colour and the refund rate was higher, the stock of navy helmets was bringing up. And this was working out badly for the business, because what we knew is it cost more money to store the least popular colour helmets, and then we're getting less money for it. So the money that we invest in the helmets wasn't actually going back into the business. We then did a stock estimate back here. This is at 18 months. And actually this should have been a double thumbs up if I did this chart again, because the stock was going to be gone at 18 months, what we planned, got rid of all the stock it was going to go. There'd be a few green helmets left, but actually on the navy helmets, a double thumbs down, we'd have been left with an excess of navy helmets, the least bestseller, and then also the most costly to hold. So what we did at this point was we changed the strategy. We introduced a lot of pricing promotions, really dropped the price on the navy ones, brought in a lot of sales, and changed the marketing budget as well. And by changing the marketing budget, we took budget away from the grey helmets and really went for navy helmets, blue helmets, all that kind of thing, try and raise that, and did a lot more blogging activity. So the net effect of that was we couldn't completely get rid of the navy helmets. We had less than we wanted, we had less than we'd expected to have if we hadn't taken the changes. So from a marketing point of view, the marketing performance got worse when we made the change, because obviously we were then reducing sales of the best-selling colour. But overall, the retailer was getting more of their goals in, and the fact that they actually got rid of, they didn't then have the success stock of the least popular colour. So the client was happy. So I think it's really interesting when you're actually in the dynamic of what the overall objectives are, you don't necessarily end up with the same point. In terms of a checklist for your profits of acquisition, obviously keep an idea of the cost of your new business, but also try and get this housekeeping in place. Check you've got everything set up, you've got enough stock of what you're going to do, that the product types are all correct. Check it's there. Look a lot at the segments. Are you particularly focusing on a particular product type? Is it new products that are brought in? Try and look what the best sellers are. Are you particularly aiming for a market? If you've got a wholesale market as well as a retail market, but really think about the more you can define who you want to sell to and what kind of people they are, and the easier it is to actually deliver on that. And also make sure your KPIs are aligned, that really what you're measuring and tracking is everything your customer wants to see, rather than just the marketing performance. This is my favourite slide, probably the presentation. A guy called Tyler Vigan, Spurious Correlations. He's compared margarine against divorce rates. Got the most beautiful diagram here showing this lovely relationship. We all know it's rubbish, but it's very compelling. I think when we're doing data analysis, be curious, but be sceptical in what you see. Think about the point of it. I often think about attribution. I'm not a marketing person. I think, well, all this time and effort to try and, get attribution down to a fine T, cope for all the changes in the algorithms, all the software. Whereas in reality, we know there'll be some ambiguity there. You can't capture every single thing that's going on that explains a sale. As a marketing agency, do you know if you're missing 5%, 20% through the attribution? And is the value of knowing that for a client better than the spending the money actually on more marketing campaigns rather than spending it to get to this exact figure? If you're building something very complex, it's more worthwhile. But if you've got a client with a relatively low marketing budget, is it just better off spending that money on more marketing than really, really trying to absolutely get to the right figure? Whereas we know, and I think it's not always clear to the clients, we know whatever result we present has got ambiguity into it, and we should be open with the clients about that. So going on now to average order values. This is a company called Milky Tea. They do breastfeeding t-shirts. best-selling products, a t-shirt that sells around £30, and really trying to understand why the order values have dropped. So this is in a Shopify. Shopify tells you the average order values. We think it's more interesting to group the order values up. How many orders are less than £50? How many are 50 to 100 and over £100? And for this particular company, the 50 to £100 range really dominates, which is unsurprising because we know they sell, generally a couple of t-shirts at a time. And also they do a promotion on orders over £50, free shipping. We then, to understand that further, we then looked at the number of products that are being ordered. And we could see people order one product, which is a blue, orange ones 2, and then 3+ products. And we looked here at month 5 to month 6. And in month 5 to month 6, we can see there's a big increase in people only ordering one product. And if I skip back to the last slide, you can see in this particular period, this was a period where the average order value fell because more people ordered. And we know the average order value fell in that month. We can then see that is actually a fact that a lot of people ordered one product. So we know that one of the reasons for this, and probably a big reason, was the fact that only one product got ordered. And once we understand that, you can then talk to the retailer. Is it the fact that the best-selling items are out of stock? Was it the fact that they ended a multi-buy promotion? There might be other reasons as well. But when you've got two charts that work the same way, you can then say there's a good relationship there. We then went to look at Bearkind. Bearkind do organic socks that save the world. Average price of a sock, £10. We thought it'd be really interesting with our system to put the same data in over the same period to see what the results look like. Does that relationship work? So here on this side, we've got the order values. We can see very few people ordering that orange line, which is £50 to £100. In the socks world, most people either order under £50 or over £100. And on this one here, when we look at the number of products per order, again, very few people are ordering 2 products. So we could have changed this graph and said, actually, let's look at people ordering 3, 4, 5 products. But what we can definitely see is that when we look here between month 1 and month 2, there's a big increase in people having an order value less than £50, but completely flat relationship in the number of products ordered. So we knew for sure that wasn't a reason in this case. And sometimes it's really good to just rule things out. When you've got some kind of diagnostic tool and you can go through all these things, say, yep, that doesn't work, this does work. And when we actually looked at this, the main reason was we look at Christmas. So we're looking at July to December, so the huge seasonal effect. If we looked at the number of orders being placed, November, December, absolutely massive increase. It's a very seasonal gift product. But there's also a wholesale retail factor going on. They sell on all the wholesale sites. And the period over here where there's these high value orders being placed, this is all down to wholesalers buying at their stock for Christmas. They could pre-order, so July, August, September, they're pre-ordering quite large volumes. And that's bumping up the average order values that we kept seeing. And then as you head towards Christmas, so people have left the market, they've got their stock in, and you're now down to the last few people. Other things happening with gift sets, subscriptions, order values. Moving quickly on to financials. Obviously, an SME doesn't enter the business so they can actually become an accountant. Quite a surprise to me because I love numbers. But actually when I work with these SMEs, they're there for a variety of reasons. Keeps me awake at night. What's the profit of my sales going on? Why is my cash flow not improving? Where's all this money leaking? Reasons it can be leaking could be the discounts that they're giving to the customers, could be the refunds that's coming back in, the exchange activity they're doing, and all the free shipping. So really they need to keep an eye on these figures. So if they can get to these figures, see them daily, weekly, they understand where this money's going, why they aren't feeling better off. On retention, I'm only going to talk about one chart, customer lifetime values. For me, this is everything. If I think a lot of you will know this theory anyway, but just in case not, you start in 1 month, I'm starting down here, you've got £10,000 worth of sales, track over 12 months, who buys again, how the refunds work, has it increased a little bit? Second orange line, again, starts at a higher point, there's more acquisition gone on, the same pattern. The green line would be month 3. Here they've got a good retention strategy. Here we can see the people that buy, they buy more consistently every month and they end up being a much better, set of customers. So if you can prove that you've got those customers in and they're actually bringing back the value, that's great for you. On your profit checklist for your retention, obviously we know it costs less money to get more retention business and new business. Do we know what that figure is? How many opt-outs have you got out who you can't approach? Where are your concentrations? Looking, have you got best-selling products? Are they responsible for most of your sales? Is it the fact that your wholesale customers are driving this? Are your top 10 customers sitting there? Is it a campaign that's bringing this information? So if you can link the campaigns to your lifetime values, you can then say, actually, this is when we started. This campaign's brought this much business in, and it's the business you want to see. Obviously, you've got an opportunity issue going on here. If you're selling socks, you're more likely to get repeat business for socks. If you're selling breastfeeding T-shirts, you're probably not onto a winner there. It's not going to happen. If you can't get to this complicated numbers, you could start thinking actually how many people spend again within 3 months, 6 months. Try and get some of those basic stats in place, measure them yourselves, and also fully cost. If you're with a company and the company wants to spend a lot of time building a great community, that's great, but also be proportionate to the efforts involved in it. Are you sizzling hot? So here we're talking about the market. I'm just applying for a startup loan. So I started watching Dragon's Den again. Dragon's Den, the guy wanted money for a beanbag, and the guy said, no, you're in e-commerce. I'm not investing in e-commerce. Steve, who's talking next, is going to talk to you about women's SEO fashion, daytime drinking outfits, massive increase in searches. If you've got daytime drinking outfits, if you've got air fryers, you're actually going to be having increased demand, and it's really worth thinking about your new customers bringing that in. But if you're selling M&S men's pants, you can assume that's a fairly good established market. You're not going to get dramatic results in performance. So really think, get proportionate to what you're doing in your business. Do you want to focus on the new? Do you want to focus on the repeat business? Have you got the opportunity there to grow and make sure you're spending the right money? This is my final slide. So this is my master view, your total picture. You understand overall what your business is worth. You can see why it's changed over time, what the factors were, and then you can drag into the detail and really pull it apart and see what's happening. And then you get that feeling of control in the business, which I think is so important for everybody today. Thank you very much for listening.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.